Effortless English. Learn to speak English like a native. Go to effortlessenglishclub.com. effortlessenglishclub.com. Join my VIP program. Get my pronunciation course. Walk and talk. Osaka, Japan. Walking to work. Cloudy day. Light, very, very, very light sprinkling. There's a few raindrops falling. I'm just hitting my skin. So not using an umbrella. No rain jacket, not yet. It's light enough, I'm okay. Gray clouds overhead. Warm and humid. Right, lots of humidity, meaning wetness in the air. Walking next to the big 6-lane road. As usual, walking north to Namba Station. Fear. Reading through comments, reading through Twitter questions, especially reading through comments on my live videos. I see this again and again and again. Fear. 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 Right? The fear of something that stops you from taking a chance, from starting your own business, from changing to study what you really want to study, to trying to live your dreams, whatever those are for you. And again, I see these questions and comments about, fear. What if I'm afraid? What if I'm afraid? And so what is this fear? Because this is what I've started asking myself. So I start realizing it's a major problem. It's a big problem. So I want to help you. So the first thing I have to decide and realize and figure out is, what is this fear exactly? What is it that you actually fear that stops you from doing these things that you would love to try to do? And I've been thinking about it a lot. Like, what is this fear stopping everybody? And I try to think of my own life in the past. What was this fear that's stopped me before? And even now, if I start having fears and worries, what is it exactly? And see, I think this is the problem, actually. Because I think most of you don't really know. You have these, we say vague fears. They're not specific. They're not really clear. You're not really clear about fear. Because see, what happens with fear is that it's a very uncomfortable feeling. We don't like it. We don't like it. And when we feel fear, what we usually do is we try to get away from it. Avoid what we're feeling afraid of. And if it's some thought that's making us afraid, like the thought of quitting our job, the thought of starting a business, the thought of being a freelancer, the thought of quitting school and doing something else, whatever. And then the fear comes up. And then, you feel this kind of vague and possibly very powerful fear and worry, maybe a few little quick thoughts about some disaster that might happen. And then what happens is, most of us, you push it away. Oh, I don't want to think about this. This is no good. And so you just kind of change your focus and you think about something else. And you avoid really thinking about the fear and looking at it. problem is, you also avoid thinking about and looking at and taking action on your dreams, your big goals, those big things that you want. Because the fear also stops you from focusing on that. By trying to avoid the fear and get away from it, you also get away from taking action, the action you need to take. So, pushing it away, avoiding it, it works in the short term. So you'll stop feeling this uncomfortable feeling that none of us like. But in the long term, it really is quite terrible, because it prevents us from dealing with our lives and living the lives we want to live. Very big problem. So what do you do? What do you do? I think the way you have to deal with these fears is, the first thing is ask, what exactly am I afraid of? Forget all this vague fear stuff. I might fail. Oh, I might get criticism. Oh, some people might be unhappy. That's vague. Think it through. I was just doing this just before I started recording. I had some worries about something. And instead of just avoiding it, pushing it away, I did the opposite. I said, I'm going to look at this. What am I afraid of? What is really worrying me? What could possibly happen specifically that I'm so afraid of? And so I thought, well, maybe this would happen, this bad thing. So then instead of just being afraid, I felt some worry and fear. I said, okay, I'm going to look at it. Okay, what if that happened? If that actually happened, what would it be like? What would it really be like? Let's look at it clearly. And I realized, well, it would cause some problems, but immediately I started imagining solutions to those problems. My life would become somewhat more difficult, but it would not end. I'd keep going. I'd still be free. I'd still be fine overall. And as I started looking really specifically into all these possible disasters and what would they actually be like, and how would I probably respond to them, the power of the fear started to go away. It started to kind of slowly go away as I started to realize, well, even if these bad things happened, actually, I could handle it. Actually, it's not as scary as I thought. The actual specifics, when I think it through in detail, it's much less scary. Much less scary. And this is what I suggest to you. So, for example, a good one is starting your own business, becoming an entrepreneur of some kind, or a freelancer. Because that seems to scare a lot of people for some reason. Really seems to scare a lot of people. And I think, again, people don't really think it through. Like I think of my cousin. I have a cousin, Philip, who he wanted to be an entrepreneur, and he started doing it, and then he quit. And also I think he had fears about pouring too much of his time and energy into it, and then failing. So what is the fear? But if you really think it through, you got to think it through in detail. So instead of running from the fear, the way to deal with it is to look at it in the eye, and then actually go deeper. Think about it. Stay with it. So people tell me the things they fear about starting their own business, for example. Well, what if I fail? I might fail. And then all this fear comes up, and then they push it away and do nothing. Well, think about it. What if you fail? Yeah. Imagine it. You try to start your business, whatever it is, and you try it, and you work hard at it, and 6 months later, or a year later, or 3 years later, you fail, and the business must close. So, just imagine that happens. So, what happens next? What happens to you next? Do you die? No. What happens? Well, if you're a little bit intelligent, you just go get a job. That's all. That's the big fear. That's all that'll happen. You try your business, it fails, you feel bad, and then you go get a job, which is probably what you're already doing. So, did you really lose much? No. In fact, even if your business failed, and you had to go back and get another job, maybe that's not great, but it's probably what you're doing already before you start your business, so it's actually no worse. And even though the business did not succeed, I guarantee you learned a lot. I guarantee you learned a lot of useful business skills. So when you decide to try to start another business, a second one, or a third one, you're more likely to succeed. So you gained experience, you gained knowledge. But it didn't work out. You didn't achieve the big dream. But so what? It's not that big a disaster, actually. When you really think about it, starting your own business is not a big risk. There's not some terrible, horrible thing that will happen to you. Okay? The worst possible thing is it just fails. I mean, what else? What other terrible things are you imagining? What are you really afraid of in that situation? What, some people might say some negative comment? Well, I told you it was a bad idea. So what? So what? At least you are strong enough to at least try. The critics stay frozen by their fear. You took action. It's the same thing with a guy, a boy, young man, afraid to go ask a girl for a date or a phone number or something. Why? When you really think about it, what's the big disaster? I mean, what's the worst you could imagine? She laughs at you? I mean, that would be maybe the worst if she laughs. Ha ha ha, I would never go on a date with you, loser. So what? So imagine if that happened. You'd feel bad a little bit, and you walk away, and then the next day or a couple days later, you forget about her, and you meet somebody else. And guess what else? If she's that mean, if she's that nasty, if she would be that rude, you're actually lucky. You don't want to date someone like that. Psycho women, no way. So you learned something. You learned, oh, well, I thought she was beautiful, but she's a psycho, and thank God I didn't end up dating her. You probably feel grateful after a few days when you really think about it. So that's it. A little embarrassment, maybe. And then, guess what? You probably feel a little braver, a little stronger. The next time you go talk to a girl, you probably be a little less nervous. Same with public speaking. People worry about public speaking. What's the big fear of public speaking? The big fear, I mean, really. Because people always, I'm so afraid of public speaking. And then they just avoid it. So again, with fears, instead of running away, look at them, examine them, and start asking, exactly what am I afraid of? Exactly what do I fear will happen or could happen? And for most people, for public speaking, it's something like, I'll forget what I'm saying, I'll just stand there, and not know what to say. Or I'll do something embarrassing. And think about it. What will happen next? What would happen next if you stood up there and you couldn't remember and your mind went blank? Right? Empty mind, you don't know what to say. What would happen next? I mean, the worst possible thing, what? Everybody would laugh at you. I'll tell you from experience, that's not what would happen. But even if it did, so what? So you just smile and say, I forgot. I can't remember. I'm sorry. I'm so nervous. And then just walk off the stage. That would be probably like the biggest possible public speaking disaster, one of them, that you might imagine. You're still alive. You're okay. No big deal. You know what would happen afterwards? I guarantee, because most people are nice. A lot of people would come up to you and say, hey, don't worry about it. Oh, I understand. I'm really nervous about public speaking too. Hey, don't worry. Next time it'll be better. You'd get a lot of sympathy, actually. And again, if you didn't, if the people were really jerks, well, then you're speaking to the wrong group, okay? You chose the wrong audience, I'm telling you, because I know my audiences would never do that. They wouldn't laugh at me and say bad stuff to me. Maybe a couple. There's always a couple jerks, in a group, but most people would be quite nice to you, actually. You'd actually get a lot of sympathy. I know this because I remember in my public speaking class, the first one I did, Dale Carnegie speaking class, that, well, it's happened several times, where people would forget, or they'd just be nervous, or they'd be shaking, or all these things. And everybody was very nice. Of course, we were in a class together, so we all understood how difficult it is. But most people are afraid of public speaking. Most people are. So most people, therefore, would be very kind if you did have a disaster. I'll give you an example from my own life. It might be another fear you might imagine. I mean, what if you were up there speaking in public, speaking to a big group of people, everybody's watching you, and you fell off the stage. You took a step and you fell off the stage and you fell onto the floor. Boom! And you hit the floor suddenly by surprise. Oh! And everybody's like, oh! Oh! What would happen next? Well, I'll tell you what happened next, because that happened to me. I did it. The last time I was in Vietnam, I did it. Nothing happened. I laughed. I started laughing, and then I just kept talking while I was laying on the floor. I just continued my speech like nothing happened. I didn't even mention it. I laughed for a couple seconds, like, because it was funny, and then I just kept talking, and I stood up and kept talking, and everybody's like, well, they know I'm a little crazy. Probably a lot of them thought I did it on purpose, just trying to be funny. But nobody really cared. It wasn't a big disaster. I continued on. It was a very big, successful event. See, I think that with fear, oftentimes it's just the fear. It's that Roosevelt quote, "We have nothing to fear but fear itself." Well, he had a bit of a point, because I do think in many life situations, especially in our modern life, which is so safe, that it's just the emotion itself that we're afraid of. And when we really think it through, that the disaster that we think might happen is actually not that bad. We could handle it. You could handle it. Right? Your business fails, oh well, go get a job. Try again. My first kind of real business, I tried to do this network marketing thing, selling nutritional supplements. It was terrible, and it failed. But I learned more about selling and marketing and other things, so went back. What did I do? Did I die? Did all my friends say, "We'll never be friends with you because your business failed"? No. Did my family say, "We will never talk to you again because your business failed"? No. Everybody said, "Oh, well, that's okay." And then I went and got a job. That's it. That's all. You need to examine your fears, not run from them. Examine them. Think them through. Keep asking, what exactly am I afraid of? And then the next question is, well, what would happen after that? What would I do after that? Again, it's only the life and death situations where the fear is actually intelligent and rational. I think what happens is, in our modern world, we have these instincts of fear and other things that are useful if you're out in the wild, where you can die fairly easily. But these instincts are too strong for our modern safe lives and environments. It's smart to be afraid of bears when you're in Alaska. Yeah, that's an intelligent fear. They eat people. But being terrified of starting your own business is not an intelligent fear. It's an irrational fear. Being terrified of talking to another person is irrational. Being terrified of public speaking is irrational. A little nervousness is understandable, but when you're really afraid and let it stop you, you got to start examining, well, what is it? What is it exactly? And keep going and dig in there and find out. What are the specific things you're imagining? And are they really that bad? And could you actually handle them quite well? As I walk to Namba, I'm wearing a backpack. It's a black backpack, also called a ruck. I think the ruck is a little more British or military. The military calls a backpack, they call them rucks. So I'm carrying weight. It adds to my fitness a little bit by carrying, I've got my computer and my work stuff in there. I put a big full bottle of water in there to add some more weight. Sometimes I'll actually put weights in it. Recently I haven't, but sometimes I do to make it even more difficult. The brand I'm using is called GoRuck. It's a GoRuck backpack or ruck. GoRuck is the name of the company. They're quite a nice story, actually. A small business story. They've done some very interesting things to promote their backpacks and to build this business. And I think we can learn some lessons from it. You can learn some lessons from it. So the GoRuck guys, the guys who started GoRuck, one guy in particular, was a military guy. And he was in Special Forces, Green Berets, I think. It's one of the American Special Forces. It was Green Berets or Rangers, I can't remember. One of those two. But anyway, the guy got out of the military. And this happens a lot with military guys, is they get out of the military and they're sort of lost a little bit for a while. Because in the military, they have purpose. In the military, they have this strong team working together, right? They have a mission. And then they get out in non-military life and they lose all of that. Everybody's just working for themselves. So he realized, well, yeah, I want to, I need to do something. And he finally figured out he's going to start this company that would produce a team, right? He'll have a team of people, his own company. He'll be the leader of the team, and he'll also have to get out there and get customers and build a community. Since he's military, he decided, I'm going to build like a military-style backpack. But the real military backpacks are a little too big for normal people. So he said, I want to build a military-style backpack that's very tough, very strong, but it's more for regular people to use. Oh, I'm passing a pool, lots of kids screaming, yeah, yeah. And he made the backpacks, he got his, design, started the company, started building them. But then, of course, as you will discover when you try your own business or to become a freelancer or whatever you try to do, the marketing, the sales is the big thing, right? How do people find out about you? Even if your product's fantastic, even if your service is fantastic, if no one knows about you, no business. So this guy, very smart, he started thinking about it. Well, how can I promote this? And what he did is he created I was going to say a race, but it's not really a race. It's more like a training event. A military-style fitness training event. So, we have these obstacle course races. Those are also based on military training a little bit, where you do a race, and then during the race, you climb over walls and crawl through the mud. I did one of those. It was fun. Well, this guy, I can't remember his name. That's why I keep saying this guy, because I can't remember his name. The GoRuck guy, GoRuck. He thought, well, you know what? One of the great things about military training, especially special forces, is that teamwork. It's the team thing, because a lot of the training those guys do, it's not about the individual person. And so it's not about one individual getting the best time. It's about the whole team succeeding together. So he thought, well, I'll create an event that instead of being a race, instead of it being focused on an individual, it'll be like this long training event, and it will be all about the teams working together. So it'll end, here's the smart part, part of the event, the focus of the event will be using my backpacks. And so the events are called GoRuck challenges. GoRuck challenges. Each GoRuck challenge, the leader of the GoRuck challenge, each one has a leader. So you sign up online on their website, you join, and when you come, there's a leader. And each leader is a veteran of special forces. It means they used to be in the military, in the special forces. The special forces are like the Navy SEALs. In America, it's Navy SEALs. There's a Marine one, the Rangers, Green Berets, Delta Force. They're kind of like the toughest of the tough military guys. So what they do then is you show up, and this special forces guy takes you through like a military style training. So there's jogging, there's a lot of rucking. It's the verb. Rucking means to walk with a weight, with a ruck, with a heavy backpack. They also have you doing push-ups and pull-ups, and maybe you have to kind of go through water at some point, or climb something, carry other big heavy objects together. But it's all done as a team. That's the key difference with these guys, is that it's all done as a team. So it's not an individual race. So the idea is, if someone's struggling, then someone else will help them. And the idea is the whole event will help bring people together. And it's also challenging. It's tough. It's not easy. It's a fitness challenge, so it's something you have to train for. They have different lengths. I think one of them's... I'm trying to remember. I think the short one is 4 hours, the shortest. Then there's like a 12-hour one, and there's a 24-hour one, I believe. They may have changed that. And then when you finish it, when you successfully complete it, you get a little patch. A patch is like a little piece of square cloth that would go on your backpack. The GoRuck backpack. And as part of the races, they have a weight requirement. So you have to bring your GoRuck backpack, and then they add weight to it. So the whole time you're doing all this, you're carrying weight. So we started promoting these events, and they started becoming very popular. They got lots and lots and lots of them now. A lot of fitness people, they like them because it's a tough fitness challenge for sure. So anyone into fitness likes that. The second thing people like is there are a lot of variety. It's not just running. It's not just push-ups, right? It's they mix in lots and lots of different activities, and each one's completely different. So you never know. Like if you go to one, then you might be doing more walking and running with heavy weights, and the next one you go to, maybe they've got you doing more like crawling on the ground and climbing up ropes and stuff, whatever. So each person and each event is a little bit different. You never know exactly what's going to happen. It's a good mix of endurance and also some strength exercises, some strength challenges as well, and then the teamwork that really makes it kind of different and special than other races. So the races became really, really popular. And guess what? He's selling a lot of backpacks because of that. I mean, this is the point from a business viewpoint. It's a really interesting way to market his backpacks, because from the business perspective, that's what the whole thing's about. I think he probably does make some money from the events too. You have to register, of course. So the events themselves probably start making money, a whole second business for him. But originally when he started it, the point was to have a cool event that would use his backpacks, his rucks, his GoRucks. And the events themselves became really popular, and because of that, the backpacks have become popular. I mean, that's why I have one of his backpacks. I didn't do an event yet. I want to try sometime. But one time I was searching around for some races or some kind of fitness challenge, just wanting something to do. And I just found his website, started watching videos about the events. They look fun, but with my schedule, they were all in America and I was out of the country. So I couldn't do one. But then while I was on his website, I started looking at his catalog, right, of all his different backpacks. I'm like, wow, these backpacks look really cool. They look tough. And, one of my problems is for a daily backpack that I destroy them. I use them every day, and I was finding that a lot of the backpacks I was using that were more like book bags, they weren't very tough, not very strong, and so I could only use them for, maybe a year, and then they would start breaking, and I gotta get another one. And I thought, this is cool. I could start doing this as training. I like this rucking idea. I was sort of looking for something a little different than just jogging. Because what I really like to do most, as you probably know from this podcast, I love walking. I love walking and hiking. Hiking in the mountains, like I mentioned in an earlier podcast, doing something like the Camino de Santiago. So I love that. That's my perfect kind of event. So rucking is exactly the kind of training I want. Heavy backpack, long walking. So I started reading on his website about ways to do the training and different ideas for that. And then I thought, these backpacks look really cool. They look really strong and tough. And that would also be perfect for traveling. Traveling is part of the problem is that when I travel, the backpacks get beat up a lot. So I thought, perfect. And I bought one of his backpacks, and they're really cool. I like it. I got this GoRuck pack. I'm a big fan of the company. I'm a big fan of their backpacks. They're very well made, very strong, very tough. The point is this. Remember in the recent Robert Kiyosaki, in chapter 1B, the most recent book club, he talks about looking for opportunities. The mindset of making money is not, I need to get a job so someone gives me money, but it's more looking for opportunities. Sorry, 1 second, passing a noisy truck. So opportunities, looking for opportunities. Think of it like this. An employee mindset is like a pet. It's like you're a pet, okay? Or like a rabbit, like a pet rabbit. Okay? So as a pet rabbit in your little cage, you are waiting for someone to feed you. Right? You're waiting for someone to come feed you. The opportunity mindset that Kiyosaki is trying to teach us in Rich Dad already is the mindset of a hunter. Right? The hunter is out there actively looking for something to eat. In case of business, the entrepreneur is actively looking for those opportunities, hunting around for opportunities to make money, to build a business, to find another income, to find an investment opportunity, whatever it is. It's a hunter mentality instead of a rabbit mentality. And so why I like this GoRuck example is this guy, he had the hunter mentality. He's like, how can I promote my backpacks? I mean, that's a crowded market. He's competing against some very large companies, right? There are some very large outdoor companies like North Face, that kind of thing. And then there's also just some very famous book bag companies that focus on that market. So this guy had a big challenge of how do, I have a very small company. I don't have a lot of money for advertising. I need some way to get people's attention and so that they learn about my backpacks and they learn why they're different and how they're different and get people excited about them. What can I do? And he found this creative opportunity. He created this opportunity of creating the race, a very creative idea to do this. Most people just do the same thing. I'll pay for advertising or I'll just do social media only. But he had a very creative idea because he was hunting for ideas and opportunities. This is the mindset you need. And as for the fear, when you're a hunter and you have the hunter mentality, okay, you don't cry because you miss one time. If a wolf is hunting or a bear is hunting and it has a chance, it chases an animal, rah, and it almost gets it, but the animal gets away. The animal escapes, no food. What does the hunter do? The hunted animal just runs away and escapes. What does the hunter do? Tries again? Just like, oh well, right? Maybe takes a little rest and then goes looking for more food. Goes looking to hunt again. Just constantly looking, hunting, looking for those opportunities. Constantly. Doesn't get too upset if one doesn't work. That happens. That's the mindset of the rich that Robert Kiyosaki's trying to teach us. That's the mindset of an entrepreneur, of a successful freelancer. You're hunting for opportunities. You're hunting all the time, and some of them won't work. Maybe the race thing, maybe that would have failed. Who knows, What if it failed for the GoRuck company? I'm sure he would have just tried something else. I'm sure he probably had 10 ideas, 15 opportunities that he saw for marketing and selling his backpacks. It's that hunter mentality that made him successful. And it's that hunter mentality, hunting for the opportunities, that will make you successful too. So rather than the fear, examine the fear, look at it, of course, as like I said, and then adopt this hunter mentality like the GoRuck company. In anything you want, and that's true for guys, that's true for young men who are trying to get out there and date and meet a girl. You got to think like a hunter. You're hunting. Sometimes you miss. You just keep looking for the opportunities. Same way investors think. Think like a hunter. All right. Go to effortlessenglishclub.com. Join my VIP program. Get my pronunciation course. effortlessenglishclub.com. See you next time.